Welcome to the Cardiac EMA Learner Series, a unique video tutorial program under the aegis of Indian Association of Cardiac Imaging. This program is focused on beginners and intermediate images with learning happening through short sessions and case-based discussions. We are grateful to experts from different parts of India who have helped us in putting this program together. Please do feel free to give us your feedback so we can continually improve such training opportunities. This session is brought to you by Dr. Richa Kothari, who is a consultant cardiothoracic radiologist in Narayana Institute of Cardiac Sciences, Bangalore. Her areas of expertise include cardiac CT and MRI in adults and children, and thoracic and vascular imaging. She received the 2018 Regional Award by the European Association of Cardiovascular Imaging in Barcelona, Spain, and holds a Level 3 certification from the same association. She has won multiple research presentations at national and international level and is a executive committee member of the Indian Association of Cardiac Imaging. She has co-authored multiple textbook chapters and is part of the DNB teaching program.
Hello everyone, I am Dr. Richa Kothari, cardiothoracic radiologist working at Narayana Hrudayalaya in Bangalore. In this video, I'll be talking about the role of phase contrast imaging in cardiac MRI. I will discuss the physics of the sequence and its applications in cardiac MRI. So let us dive right into physics. I will try and keep it very simplified. Due to an initial excitation pulse, the spins are in phase. Then a gradient is applied to both stationary and flowing spins, causing phase shift. A second gradient of the same amplitude and duration is applied, but with opposite polarity. So in stationary nuclei, there is reversal of the phase shift of same amount, cancelling the original with no net phase shift. However, flowing nuclei have changed position. So the phase shift is proportional to the velocity of the nuclei. Magnetic field inhomogeneities may cause artifacts. So the sequence has two runs with a zero phase shift and another with a positive phase shift, which it then subtracts to cancel out these effects. To the left is a magnitude image of the phase contrast imaging, and this is the phase difference image. The stationary protons appear gray, flow in one direction appears brighter, and flow in the other direction appears darker. This is a graphical representation of the analysis of a phase contrast sequence obtained at the level of ascending aorta. You can see that the forward flow is 37.3 ml with a backward flow of 0.2, which is represented in this graph, which this is the forward flow with the slight backward flow, effectively giving a stroke volume of 37.1. The regurgitation fraction is calculated as 0.5% and it gives the peak velocity. The peak velocity can then be used to calculate the gradient using the modified Bernoulli's equation of 4 times square of the velocity. A phase contrast sequence gives us information about the flow direction, quantification, velocity, as well as gradient. While acquiring the phase contrast sequence, the VENC, the peak velocity encoding value, has to be entered by the user. Ideally, the VENC should be closer to the maximum expected velocity, which gives us more accurate measurements. If the VENC is below the peak velocity, it causes aliasing due to velocity wraparound, as we can see in this image. In such cases, we need to increase the VENC and we obtain a phase contrast sequence without aliasing, which can then be used for measurements, which gives accurate results. If the VENC is too high, also it gives less accurate measurements due to noise. So we usually enter the VENC as 200 cm per second for aorta, 150 centimeter per second for MPA and other arteries, 80 to 100 centimeter per second for pulmonary veins, and 50 centimeter per second for systemic veins. Phase contrast sequence obtained with a retrospective gating technique provides data for the whole cardiac cycle, thus giving us information about systole as well as diastole. It can be acquired, the sequence can be acquired either perpendicular, which is called through plane, or parallel, which is called in plane, to the direction of the flow. Commonly, we acquire through plane, that is, images which are perpendicular to the direction of the flow. While acquiring the sequence, we have to be careful that the planning is exactly perpendicular to the direction of a flow so as to give us round circumference, because any change in angle of acquisition gives rise to errors. Let's see some of the applications of the sequence. In our place, we acquire Q flows in ascending aorta as well as proximal main pulmonary artery in all the cases. We use it to verify our cardiac output obtained by volumetry. So, for example, if by volumetry my left ventricular stroke volume is 100, my aorta Q flow should also be approximately around 100 if there is no mitral regurgitation. Another use of phase contrast sequence is to determine the E by A ratio. E by A ratio is the ratio of peak velocity by left ventricular relaxation in early diastole, which is the E wave, to the peak velocity by atrial contraction in late diastole, which is the A wave. The E by A ratio, along with deceleration time, gives us the stage of diastolic dysfunction. Another application is in valvular heart disease for diagnosis and quantification. In stenotic lesions, Q flow obtained at the level of stenosis gives us the peak velocity, which we can use to calculate the gradient. Also, we can do planimetry for valve area by cine or phase contrast sequences acquired at the tip of the valve leaflets. In case of regurgitant lesions, we can acquire the regurgitant volume and fraction by phase contrast sequence, especially at the aortic and pulmonary valves. In mitral and tricuspid valves, there may be some motion artifacts. So we usually use the indirect method where we calculate it by subtracting the valve forward flow from the ventricular stroke volume. Now let us see some of the applications of phase contrast imaging in congenital heart disease. To the left is a sagittal MIP sequence of MR angiography. We can see that there is narrowing at the level of aortic isthmus, suggestive of coarctation. This is a cine sequence obtained in what we call the hockey stick view, which is a sagittal oblique obtained through the aortic arch. In this, we can see flow acceleration across the stenotic segment. We can also acquire an in-plane phase contrast across the aortic coarctation. We can see flow acceleration at the level of stenosis. In a case of coarctation, we usually acquire Q flows at the level of ascending aorta, in the proximal descending aorta just below the level of stenosis, and in the descending thoracic aorta at level of diaphragm. An increase in flow between the level just distal to the stenosis and at the level of diaphragm of about 10 to 15% suggests significant collateral circulation, which in turn suggests significant stenosis. Normally, the flow should decrease between these two levels. Another application of phase contrast is in cardiac shunts. They are the most commonly encountered congenital cardiac malformation in clinically practice. Determination of its site, size, rims is usually well done by echocardiography. MRI gives additional information about number of defects, degree of shunting, ventricular function, and also associated abnormalities of valvular dysfunction or coexisting vascular lesions. In normal individuals, the systemic QS and pulmonary QP flow should be same. Any mismatch in flow usually suggests a shunt circulation. So a ratio of QP by QS of 2 or more than 2 suggests that patient should go in for closure of the shunt. However, closure is not recommended if the patient already has severe irreversible pulmonary hypertension. This is a 4-chamber cine view where we can see that there is a left to right shunt across a small interatrial septal defect. In some cases, in the cine sequences, we may not see the shunt well. In such cases, doing a phase contrast at the level with a low bank helps to delineate the shunt and direction very well. Also, we can obtain a phase contrast MRI at the level of defect through it, which shows the presence and the direction of the shunt. Not just proximal aorta and MPA, Q flows can be obtained at multiple levels. As we can see here, we can obtain it across the branch pulmonary arteries, the pulmonary veins, SVC and IVC. In SVC, it is usually acquired below the azygos, and in IVC, above the hepatic veins. Pulmonary veins might be difficult to plan to get perfect perpendicular planes to the flow, so it's easier to plan them on angiography. The various Q flows then obtained can either be plotted in a diagram like this. This is called the Mullin's diagram, which is available on the net, or we can put it in a tabular form. So a systemic flow can be calculated by using the flow across the ascending aorta, or SVC and descending aorta, or SVC with IVC, or left ventricular stroke volume. Pulmonary flow can be calculated by using Q flow across the MPA, RPA plus LPA, or all pulmonary veins, or the right ventricular stroke volume. Usually we acquire multiple Q flows in complex congenital heart disease cases or in post-operative patients to correlate and cross-check the volumes and flows, and also in case some flows may show artifacts. So in left to right shunts, there is increase in pulmonary blood flow, so the QP is more than QS, except in shunts like patent ductus arteriosus and aortopulmonary window, where the ascending aorta and MPA Q flows are acquired proximal to the shunt. So actually, the QS is more than QP in these patients. Another use of phase contrast imaging is in non-invasive quantification of systemic to pulmonary collateral flow, or aortopulmonary collateral flow. It is an accurate method for quantifying collateral flow. It is used to determine if there is a significant hemodynamic burden due to collaterals, especially in cases of severe tetralogy of Fallot or complex congenital heart disease or single functional ventricle with collaterals. We obtain multiple Q flows as seen in this table, and then the collateral flow is calculated in two ways. The pulmonary arterial flow is subtracted from the pulmonary venous flow on right side and left side, and the total gives the collateral flow by the pulmonary method. And in the systemic method, the total caval return is subtracted from the aorta flow. So aortopulmonary collateral flow is nothing but an average of the both. In post-Fontan cases, Q flows can be used to assess the distribution of branch pulmonary artery flows to each lung, providing a hemodynamic assessment for any significant obstruction. The RPA flow may be difficult to plan due to position of caval anastomosis, so it can be calculated by subtracting LPA flow from the total caval return. Also, Q flows can be used for quantification of the aortopulmonary collateral burden, which we just saw, which in these cases plays an important role because These collaterals may add an additional volume load to the single ventricle, and such patients may benefit from coiling of the collaterals. Some other applications of use of phase contrast in cardiovascular MRI is to determine the differential pulmonary blood flow, which can be quantified by measurement of flow separately in left and right pulmonary artery. Usually the normal differential pulmonary blood flow is 55 to the right is to 45 to the left. However, it can change in cases with size discrepancy or branch pulmonary artery stenosis. Another application is we can use it to determine the degree of stenosis in cases with multiple level of stenosis. So in such cases, we can take an in-plane phase contrast MRI, which shows us flow disturbances at multiple places if there are multiple level of stenosis. And then we can plan through plane MRI at each specific level to quantify at that particular level. So this can help us differentiate the degree of stenosis contributed at different levels like mid-cavitary or outflow tract or valvular level. Another application is in patients with right heart dysfunction with unknown etiology. QPQS helps in screening for presence of cardiac shunts. 4D flow is a rapidly evolving technique which enables quantification through any plane across the volume which is acquired. The scan times are now about 5 to 10 minutes. In addition to current flow parameters of forward and reverse flow, regurgitation fraction, peak velocity, it also supplies advanced parameters like wall shear stress. So this we are seeing a video of the 4D flow obtained through this entire volume on cardiac MRI, and we can see it depicts the flow in the entire volume, and we can plot any plane and obtain flows at that particular level. It has tremendous potential and a lot of research is still going on. Thank you.